I woke up in the body of a billionaire CEO in one of those groveling husband romance novels, right at the part where I'm supposed to kneel in a torrential downpour for 3 days and nights to win back my ex-wife. System? No system. Brains? The original host didn't have any, but I do. Only an idiot would go out there and kneel. Looking out the window at the thunder and lightning, I saw my ex-wife, Elena Vance, standing stubbornly at the gates of my estate, waiting for my heart to soften. I wrapped my comforter tighter around myself, grabbed the walkie-talkie, and shouted to security, "That woman at the gate is trespassing." And looking at her eyes, I suspect she's plotting to steal the marble lions. Call the cops and drag her out of there. Then, I turned my head and saw an elderly woman selling roasted yams on the roadside. "Ma'am, those yams look sweet. I'm investing $10 million. We're taking this yam stand to the New York Stock Exchange." 30 minutes later, sirens wailed. I was handcuffed and hauled away on suspicion of massive money laundering and elder fraud. I heard that when Elena went to the precinct to bail me out, she was completely dumbfounded. When I first woke up, my head was splitting. Unfamiliar ceiling, unfamiliar room, and a melodramatic life that didn't belong to me. I was now Caleb Sterling, CEO of the $1 trillion Sterling Corp. 30 minutes ago, I was a slacker ready to retire and enjoy life. Now, I'm the scumbag male lead in this redemption novel. The plot was stuck at the most classic checkpoint. Because of my white moonlight, my first love, I had tormented the female lead, my ex-wife Elena, until she lost hope. Now her heart is dead. She ran away pregnant. Actually just a stomach ache, and I'm supposed to start the crematorium phase, the part where I grovel until I'm nearly dead. Step 1. Kneel in the rain to beg for forgiveness upon her return. "Sir," the butler, Henderson, spoke with zero emotion. He handed me a brand new black suit. The fabric looked expensive. "Ms. Vance has been standing in the rain for 2 hours. He paused, a hint of urgency in his tone. "It is time for you to go kneel with her." I looked at him in shock. Kneel with her? I'm worth billions. Are my knees inlaid with diamonds? Are they that worthless? I threw off the covers and walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, lightning flashed and rain poured like a waterfall. A fragile figure stood stubbornly at the villa gates, the rain soaking her long hair and white dress, making her look tragic and beautiful. It was Elena. She looked up, saw me at the window, and sure enough, a pale but hopeful smile appeared on her face. She was waiting for this scumbag to have an epiphany, rush down, hug her, and repent in tears. Then we'd both suffer in the rain, staging a love story that would move heaven and earth. I shuddered. Who wants that kind of blessing? I turned around, grabbed the walkie-talkie in the room, and pressed the talk button. Elena's smile widened. She probably thought I was telling the butler to open the gate. I cleared my throat and yelled into the device with all my might. "Guard Shack. Guard Shack, answer if you copy." Static crackled from the walkie-talkie. "Sir, what are your orders?" "That woman at the gate. Do you see her?" Visual confirmed. It's the young Ms. It's the ex-Mrs. Sterling. Ex-wife. I corrected him. She is illegally assembling on private property. And that look in her eyes, I suspect she wants to steal the pair of $8 million marble lions at our front gate. The security guard fell silent. Elena's smile froze on her face. I doubled down. "Call the police. Tell them someone is disturbing the peace and ruining the city's image. And while you're at it, drag her away. Don't let her ruin my feng shui." The guard hesitated on the other end. "Sir, isn't that a bit harsh? $5,000 bonus for everyone this month." "Copy that. Mission accepted." The guard's answer was loud and clear, followed by lightspeed action. I hung up the walkie-talkie with satisfaction, watching 2 security guards holding umbrellas flank the bewildered Elena and escort her away. The world was finally quiet. I lay back in my king-size bed and wrapped myself in my cozy duvet. "Henderson, order me some takeout. I want that spicy chili bowl from the old place downtown." Henderson looked like he'd swallowed a fly. "Sir, the Michelin 3-star chef has already prepared dinner for you. Let him rest. His food isn't as good as the taco truck down the street." I waved my hand, intent on experiencing the joy of junk food. But then the delivery guy called to say the rain was too heavy, the roads were flooded, and he couldn't make it. A nameless fire surged in my chest. I, Caleb Sterling, financially free before transmigrating and a billionaire CEO after, couldn't even get a bowl of chili. I threw off the covers, changed my clothes, and decided to go out myself. I had to eat. This was my final stand. Henderson tried to stop me, saying it was dangerous outside. I shot him a side eye and scoffed coldly, mimicking the original host. "Get lost." Henderson didn't dare argue further. The tyrannical CEO persona was actually quite useful sometimes. I drove the flashiest red Ferrari out of the garage and sped into the rain. Destination, downtown. Halfway there, at an intersection, I saw a familiar yet strange figure. An older woman in a raincoat, guarding a roasting drum, shivering in the cold wind. The scent of roasted sweet potatoes, yams, cut through the rain and drilled into my nose. My DNA activated. Forget the chili. In the face of roasted yams, everything else had to take a back seat. I pulled the car over and pushed the door open. "Ma'am, how much for the yams?" I walked up to the stall, rain dripping from my hair. The woman was startled by my outfit and the flashy sports car. It took her a moment to react. $10 apiece, young man." "Give me one." "No, give me all of them." I pointed at every yam in her furnace and warmer. The woman's hand shook, nearly dropping her tongs into the fire. "Young man, I have over 20 left." "It's fine, I can eat them." I pulled out my phone to pay. The woman deftly packed all the yams into a large bag, the wrinkles on her face blooming into a smile. I took a piping hot yam, peeled it, and shoved it into my mouth. So sweet. That's the stuff. This is the happiness carbohydrates should bring. Looking at the honest, simple smile of the woman in the wind and rain, a great idea suddenly was born in my mind. Yams this delicious, sold only here. A waste of talent. Caleb Sterling, a rich man dedicated to doing the bare minimum. Why couldn't I do something meaningful? Like supporting the real economy. Mom. I swallowed the yam, my expression solemn. "Yes, young man. Do you want to go big? Create a legacy?" She looked at me like I was an idiot. "Young man, what are you talking about?" I pointed at her yam stand with soaring ambition. "Does your yam have a dream? Does it want to leave this street corner and charge into the world?" The woman silently moved her cash box behind her back, watching me warily. "Young man, I just want to sell out early and go home to hug my grandson." "No, you don't." I categorically denied it. "Your dream is to open a yam franchise on the NASDAQ. Let the whole world taste this damned sweetness." I pulled a checkbook and a fountain pen from my suit's inner pocket. I grabbed them from the study on my way out, thinking they might be useful. And they were. Caleb Sterling, in the name of Sterling Corp., formally invest in you. I scribbled a string of zeros on the check. 10 million. Angel round funding. "Is that enough?" I handed the check to her. The woman let out a yelp, scooting back 3 feet, chair and all, dropping her shovel. You. Stay back." She tremblingly pulled out a flip phone. "Hello, police." "Yes." Intersection of Main and 5th. There's a lunatic in a suit driving a sports car. He wants to launder money through me. "Yes. 10 million. Come quick. I think he wants to rob my yams." "Me? I just wanted to be a quiet angel investor. How did I become a money launderer?" I tried to explain. "Ma'am, you misunderstand. I really believe in your project." "Save it." "I know. You pig butchering scammers. Give a little sweetness first. Then cheat me out of my pension. I'm telling you, I have no money." She looked tragic and indignant, as if I were some unforgivable con artist. I looked at the $10 million check in my hand, feeling insulted. A dignified billionaire CEO, would scam you for peanuts. I decided to prove my financial power with facts. I dialed the company's CFO directly and put on speaker. Within 30 minutes, checked the QR code of the yam vendor at Main and 5th and wired $10 million into it. The CFO on the other end was silent for a full 10 seconds. "Mr. Sterling, say that again." "Wire to whom?" "The yam vendor." "How much?" $10 million. "Mr. Sterling, transferring funds like that violates protocol, and the risk control system will immediately alert the authorities." "I don't care. This is a CEO order. Send the money. Immediately. Now." I hung up and gave the woman what I thought was a kind and amiable smile. "Ma'am, look, the money will be there any second." Her eyes looked even more terrified. Just then my phone dinged. A bank notification. Not mine, hers. Her vintage flip phone shouted out a line of text with all its might. "Your savings account ending in XXXX has received a deposit of $10,000,000 on month X, day X. Current balance, $10,000,345.50. The woman looked at the phone, then at me, rolled her eyes, and nearly fainted. Just as I was immersing myself in the fantasy of the rising yam empire, ear-piercing sirens approached from the distance. Several police cars flashed their lights, executing a beautiful drift to box in me, the woman, the yam stand, and my flashy Ferrari. Officers rushed out and pinned me against the hood of the Ferrari without a word. Cold handcuffs clicked onto my wrists. I was totally bewildered. While being pinned, I still had half a yam in my mouth, shouting incoherently, "Officer, it's a misunderstanding. I'm a good guy. Hey, my yams. Save two for me." The lights in the interrogation room were blindingly white. Two stern police officers sat opposite me. Name: Caleb Sterling. Occupation: CEO of Sterling Corp. The younger officer looked up at me, then exchanged a glance with the older one next to him. That look clearly said, another delusional one. Spill it. Why did you give a yam-selling lady $10 million? The older officer knocked on the table, his tone severe. Is this money laundering or some new type of fraud? I sighed, looking at him with utter sincerity. Officer, I'm telling the truth. Because the yams were delicious. I wanted to fill the world with love, to let the scent of roasted yams waft across the 7 seas. Bam! The older officer slammed the table and stood up. What do you think you are? Doing stand-up comedy? Talk. We're your accomplices. Who is your handler? I felt like I was insulting their intelligence, and they were insulting my character. I'm just a slacker trying to retire. Where would I get accomplices and handlers? After a 30-minute standoff, seeing that I was impervious to their tactics, they got angry too. Call his family. Get a family member to pick him up. Family? In the original host's memory, his parents were dead, and his relatives wished he was. The only emergency contact. I recited a number I knew by heart. The officer dialed. Hello, is this Ms. Elena Vanche? This is the West Side Precinct. Your ex-husband, Caleb Sterling, is here. We need you to come down. I could imagine Elena's shock on the other end. Half an hour later, Elena arrived. She had changed into a sharp black business suit. Her hair was dry, and she wore exquisite light makeup, looking like an aloof queen. Completely different from the little white flower shivering in the rain in my memory. Seeing me, she paused for a second, then walked up to the officer, her tone polite but distant. Officer, may I ask, what did he do? Was it a commercial dispute or a fight? In her view, a man like Caleb Sterling ending up in the precinct could only be for those 2 reasons. The older officer pointed at me, squatting in the corner, trying to chat up the Annie who had come in to give her statement. Your ex-husband is suspected of scamming the elderly. Elena. He forcibly transferred $10 million to an elderly lady selling roasted yams, nearly giving her a heart attack. Elena. The expression on her face was spectacular, like she had just heard a fairy tale from Mars. The cold-blooded, profit-driven Caleb Sterling scamming an old lady selling yams? For what? Her roasting drum? The auntie nearby, having finished her statement, returned the $10 million and been repeatedly warned about fraud, looked at me with lingering fear before leaving. This young man looks decent enough. Shame his brain doesn't work right. Officer, you educate him well. Don't let him out to scare people again. Me. Finally, after Elena paid bail and signed a guarantee to keep a strict watch on me, I walked out of the police station. Outside, the flashy Ferrari had already been towed. Elena's car was parked by the curb. It was a low-profile compact sedan. She opened the door and looked at me expressionlessly. I consciously got in the passenger seat, still clutching the last 2 cold yams the police officer had gifted me. The car was dead silent. I could feel Elena's gaze landing on me from time to time, carrying a trace of incomprehension. She was probably using her CEO novel logic to frantically analyze my behavior today. Was he triggered by the divorce? Is he self-destructing? Or is this some new ploy to get my attention? I silently took a bite of the cold yam. Actually, it was still pretty sweet cold. I handed the other one to her, trying to break the awkwardness. Thanks. I'll wire you the bail money later. You want this? It's pretty sweet. Elena looked at the yam in my hand, then at my sincere, tried expression. Finally, a crack appeared in her aloof mask. She didn't take it, just started the car. Caleb, what exactly are you trying to do? Her voice carried a hint of exhaustion. What could I do? I was just hungry and wanted a yam. The car drove all the way back to my villa. As soon as we entered, I smelled pungent perfume. On the living room sofa, a woman wearing a skimpy silk nightgown stood up and walked toward me with a seductive sway. Vanessa Cole. In the original novel, she was my white moonlight, a high-level manipulator. Also the direct trigger for my divorce from Elena. Caleb, you're back. She spoke in a sugary voice, eyes glistening as if she had suffered a great injustice. I heard you were in a bad mood, so I came specifically to keep you company. She leaned in, trying to fall onto me. According to the original plot, I should treat her as a substitute for Elena right now, hug her while calling Elena's name, and stage a heart-wrenching substitute lover scene. Or coldly tell her to get lost to show my deep love for Elena. I looked at her, and suddenly a light bulb went on. Right, why didn't I think of that? You're just in time. Seeing my attitude wasn't as cold as usual, a shy smile appeared on Vanessa's face. She lowered her head slightly, waiting for my embrace. I walked right past her to the corner of the living room. The toilet in the second-floor guest bath is clogged. Henderson is off today, and I couldn't fix it. I grabbed a brand-new plunger from the utility closet and shoved it into her hand. You know how to plunge, right? Vanessa froze, clutching the cold rubber handle. Caleb, I came to keep you company. What uses company? I looked at her with disgust. Can you unclog a toilet? Can you flush down the things that shouldn't be seen? If not, don't block the way. Go plunge it. I pointed upstairs. If you don't clear it, I'm docking your allowance for the month. Vanessa was completely petrified. She probably never imagined in her life that her carefully prepared honey trap would turn into a plumber trap. Her face turned red, and clutching the plunger, she went upstairs in humiliation. I sat on the living room sofa with a clear conscience, turned on the TV, and started watching SpongeBob SquarePants. After a while, the sound of Vanessa gagging drifted down from upstairs. I frowned and turned up the volume. Too loud, it's affecting my cartoons. Just then, the doorbell rang. I thought Henderson was back, but when I opened the door, it was Elena returning. She was holding a first aid kit. Seeing me answer the door, she paused. Your car was towed. I was worried you'd get sick from the rain, so I brought some cold medicine. Her expression was still cold, but her actions betrayed her concern. Before I could speak, a scream came from upstairs, followed by a loud clatter. Vanessa rushed down, holding the plunger stained with unidentifiable filth, tears streaming down her face. Her silk nightgown was splattered with yellow-brown spots. Caleb Sterling, you bastard. You humiliated me. She screamed, winding up to throw the plunger at me. Me, Elena, and Vanessa. 3 people in the entryway, looking at each other. The air was dead silent. Elena's gaze moved from me to the weeping Vanessa, and finally landed on the dripping plunger. I could see her hand gripping the first aid kit trembling slightly. She probably thought Vanessa and I were upstairs playing some very intense kink. And because we took it too far, Vanessa was this upset. After all, it's hard for a normal person to connect billionaire CEO, first love, and unclogging toilets. Elena's face went from white to red, then red to green. She looked at me, her eyes filled with deeper confusion and suspicion than at the police station. Is there something wrong with this world? Elena eventually said nothing, shoved the kid into my hands, and turned to leave. Her retreating figure looked like she was fleeing a crime scene. I solved the Vanessa problem, felt great, and had a good sleep. The next day, refreshed, I went to the office. And right at the entrance of Sterling Corp., I was blocked by a mob. Leading the pack was a young man wearing a tight black t-shirt, skinny jeans, and knockoff designer slides with socks. He had dyed blonde hair and temporary tattoos of dragons and tigers on his arms. He was leading a dozen brothers of the same aesthetic, aggressively blocking the company entrance. Caleb Sterling, get your ass out here. The blonde kid waved a steel pipe, shouting at the office tower. You dare bully my sister. If I don't kill you today, my name isn't Vance. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the CEO's office, looking at the familiar yet strange figure downstairs. Tyler Vance, Elena's biological brother, the malicious brother-in-law from the original novel, a terminally ill case of middle school syndrome who was dedicated to killing me, but whose IQ was always offline. The head of security had already taken his team down and was preparing to clear the scene. Hold on. I stopped them via walkie-talkie. Looking at the spirited young lad downstairs, I suddenly felt he had unique bone structure, a moldable talent. I adjusted my tie and took the elevator down. When I appeared, Tyler's arrogance flared even higher. Caleb Sterling, you bastard. You finally dared to come out. He waved a steel pipe and charged at me. The security guards behind me immediately stepped forward, but I raised a hand to stop them. Looking at Tyler's familiar outfit, especially those skinny jeans and slides, a dusty switch for tacky aesthetics, deep in my soul was flipped. It felt endearing. You're Tyler. I looked him up and down. Cut the crap. Today, either you kneel and apologize to my sister, or I break your legs. He was menacing, but the eyes of his dozen brothers were wandering, constantly glancing at our company's gleaming entrance and the pretty receptionists. I ignored him, pulled out my phone, and brought up a recruitment ad I had HR make overnight. Sterling Corp Security Department, urgent hiring. I turned the screen toward the gang of hooligans. Salary, $4,000 a month, full benefits for 01k, room and board included, double pay at Christmas. The steel pipes in the hands of Tyler's brothers froze in midair. A kid with green hair whispered, Bro, Does full benefits mean dental? Tyler was furious, turning back to roar. Have some self-respect. We're here for revenge. I leisurely added, Captain gets $10,000 a month, a company car, and a private office. Tyler's expression solidified. He looked at me, then at the steel pipe in his hand, and finally at the row of majestic guards in crisp uniforms behind me. He hesitated. Truly, he hesitated for only 3 seconds. Bro! Tyler threw the pipe down with a clang, rushed in front of me, and rolled up his sleeves to reveal his not-so-impressive biceps. Look at this build. Look at these muscles. Can I take a hit, or what? Can I fight? He patted his chest with a look of sincere desperation. Pick me. I don't need 10,000, bro. Give me 9. My boys can work too. Give them 3,000. No, 2.5. They listen to me. Point and shoot. Me. Was this hostile takeover a bit too smooth? Just then, a compact sedan screeched to a halt at the curb. Elena, worried her brother would actually do something stupid, rushed out of the car. Tyler, stop. Don't you dare. Her voice arrived before she did. When she rushed over and saw the scene clearly, she was dumbfounded. Her brother, who was supposed to be avenging her, was bowing and scraping, offering me a cigarette with a fawning face. Bro, from now on you're my real brother. Whoever messes with you, I'll drop them first. Elena stood frozen, watching Tyler slavishly accept the security uniform I handed him, watching him lead a group of minions in a bizarre salute to me. She looked at me, then at her instantly traitorous brother. I felt her worldview had completely collapsed today. The world had gone mad. The Sterling Corp annual charity gala was held at the city's top hotel. Celebrities gathered, stars shone. But tonight, everyone's focus was on one person, me, Caleb Sterling, and my ex-wife, Elena, who had just divorced me but appeared at the gala. Rumors were flying. They said Caleb Sterling had turned over a new leaf, was still in love with Elena, and that tonight's gala was a carefully prepared apology and proposal scene. Countless people waited for the show to see how this once cold-blooded CEO would humble himself to win back his ex-wife. Elena obviously heard the rumors too. She wore a high-end silver mermaid gown, hair pinned up, revealing a graceful swan-like neck. She was as beautiful as a goddess under the moonlight, but heavy with worry, her eyes filled with anxiety. Expectation mixed with fear. Vanessa Cole came too, wearing a fiery red dress and exquisite makeup, clearly there to crash the party and outshine everyone. She held a wine glass, dropping hints to everyone that the person I really loved was her, and Elena was just past tense. Halfway through the gala, the host walked onto the stage, voice trembling with excitement. Ladies and gentlemen, next up is the most thrilling moment of the night. Let's welcome with the warmest applause the CEO of Sterling Corp, Mr. Caleb Sterling, and his date for the evening. Snap! All spotlights instantly converged on the ballroom entrance. The music swelled, and the doors opened. Everyone held their breath. Elena tightened her grip on her wine glass. Vanessa revealed a triumphant smile. I, wearing a priceless bespoke suit, hair combed meticulously, walked in with the slow, confident stride of a CEO. On my arm was a lady. She wore a clearly ill-fitting purple evening gown, her hair hurriedly pinned up, a look of unease on her face. In her hand, she tightly clutched a freshly roasted, steaming yam. It was Annie Mae, or Mama Rosa, the street vendor I had scammed a few days ago. The room fell into a deathly silence. The music stopped. Everyone's expressions froze like someone hit pause. Elena's mouth fell slightly open, and her wine glass dropped onto the carpet with a clatter. Vanessa's smile froze, looking uglier than crying. Only the Annie on my arm was shivering and asking me, Yo, young man, there's so many people here, and the lights are so bright. Can I set up my stall? My yams are still hot. I elegantly took the roasted yam from her hand, walked onto the stage, and took the microphone from the host. Ahem. I cleared my throat, facing the guests, and introduced her solemnly. Allow me to introduce the lady beside me, my strategic partner, the future yam queen, Ms. Mama Rosa. The shareholders below turned green. Ignoring them completely, I began my serious nonsense. Yams, a gift from the earth, the soul connecting us to nature. Humble, yet containing immense energy. I, Caleb Sterling, hereby announce that Sterling Corp's future strategic focus will shift entirely. Entering modern agriculture, our first goal is to build a world-class yam supply chain. The crowd was in an uproar. Vanessa finally found her chance. She stepped forward, voice dripping with mockery. Caleb, have you lost your mind? Saying things like this at an event like this. Where do you put the Sterling family's dignity? I looked down at her, then at the yam in my hand. That face of yours is caked like a drywall project. The powder is thick enough to spackle a hole. It has less texture than the skin of this yam. Buffed. Somewhere in the audience, someone couldn't hold back a laugh. It was Elena. She covered her mouth, shoulders shaking, eyes twinkling with bright laughter. It was the first time since she left me that I saw her smile so happily, so genuinely. Looking at her smile, my heart suddenly skipped a beat. Oh no, the plot is going wrong. She doesn't actually have a thing for this kind of stupidity, does she? After the gala, Elena's mind was in chaos. She went home, locked herself in her room, and stayed up all night. She reviewed all my recent erratic operations, calling the cops to drag her away in the rain, throwing 10 million at a yam lady and getting arrested, making her White Moonlight Vanessa plunge a toilet, hiring her delinquent brother as a security captain, and announcing a partnership with a street vendor in front of the city's elite. Every single thing was absurd to the extreme. Every act seemed like something only a mentally unstable person would do. Her best friend heard the story, slapped her thigh, and came to a shocking conclusion. He's trying to get your attention. Elena. The friend shouted over the phone. Think about it. What was Caleb like before? Cold, aloof, unapproachable. And now, for you, he's willing to disguise himself as a lunatic, a fool. He's doing all these ridiculous things just to make you see him again. He's using this self-destructive method to express his regret and pain. Elena was stunned. Was that it? For the sake of winning her back, he even utilized an innocent yam lady and gambled the entire group's reputation. What painstaking effort! Elena was moved. The next day, while I was goofing off playing video games in the office, I received an internal call from the front desk. Mr. Sterling, Ms. Vance sent you a love bento. Me? Love bento? Shouldn't she hate me to the bone? I looked at the exquisite 3-tiered lunch box the secretary brought in. Top tier, sushi and sashimi. Middle, wagyu beef. Bottom, tempura. All my favorites from before. I frowned and slammed the lid shut. Not as good as yams. I pushed the box aside and shouted at the door, Tyler. Tyler, wearing his security captain uniform, rushed in like a puppy. Boss, what's up? I'm gifting this to you. I pointed at the food. Tyler's eyes lit up, his voice cracking with excitement. Thanks, bro-in-law. You're too good to me. He hugged the box, nearly crying with emotion, then immediately snapped a photo and posted it to his Instagram story. Caption, my brother-in-law is the best in the world. Gave me his love bento. 3. Far away in her own office, Elena scrolled past this post. She looked at the photo of the exquisite Japanese food and Tyler's caption, brother-in-law, and her eyes grew hot. He really loves me, so he loves my family too. He's being so good to my brother just to please me. Elena couldn't sit still anymore. She decided to personally visit the office to surprise Caleb. So, when I had my shoes off, feet propped on the desk, picking at my toes while reading spicy fanfiction on my tablet with a chip hanging from my mouth, my office door was slammed open. Elena stood there, holding a bouquet of flowers. Our eyes met. The air froze instantly. My toe picking froze. I forgot to chew the chip. Elena's pose holding the flowers stiffened. 1 second. 2 seconds. I silently took my feet off the desk, put on my shoes, and cleared my throat. So, if I said I was practicing a very new form of yoga, would you believe me? Elena looked at me, her eyes suddenly reddening, large tears rolling down without warning. She choked back a sob, walking toward me step by step. Is the pressure for the company really that bad that you have to use this method to decompress? Me? No, lady, isn't your imagination a bit too strong? I'm just purely too lazy to sit properly. Vanessa wasn't willing to be discarded just like that. Especially after being publicly humiliated at the charity gala, she went completely crazy. She decided to use her killer move. That day, she stormed into my office. Elena happened to be there too, advising me not to stress too much and learn to relax. Caleb, Vanessa held an ultrasound printout, her face wearing a desperate, go-for-broke expression. She slammed the paper onto my desk. I'm pregnant with your child. Elena's face instantly turned pale. She looked at the paper in disbelief, then at me, swaying as if she couldn't stand. Here it comes. According to the original trope, this is one of the most abusive plot points for the female lead. I'm supposed to either deny it or force Elena to leave for the sake of the child. Maximum scumbag behavior. I calmly picked up the paper and glanced at it. 6 weeks pregnant. I looked up at Vanessa, putting on a confused face. I recall that 6 weeks ago, I was on an expedition in Antarctica observing penguin reproduction habits. What, does penguin breeding concern you? Or do I reproduce asexually? Vanessa's face changed color. It was from before. 7 weeks. Oh, I nodded, picked up my phone, and dialed 911 directly. Hello, dispatch. Sterling Tower, penthouse office. There's a woman here pregnant with an unidentified organism. Suspected alien species. Suggest immediate transport for dissection and research for the sake of human biology. Vanessa turned pale with fright. Caleb, are you crazy? I hung up and turned to Elena, spreading my hands. See? The cost of scamming is so low these days. Just a printed piece of paper, and she wants to extort a child out of me. Does she think I'm stupid? Elena stared blankly at me. Then at the ultrasound I had tossed into the recycling bin. Her expression went from pale to slowly regaining color. I shouted at the door, Tyler. Tyler rushed in with 2 guards. Boss, orders. I pointed at Vanessa, who had collapsed on the floor. Forklift her out. With that kind of imagination, don't waste it. Send her to the electronics factory in the East End to tighten screws. I heard they're short on scriptwriters. Tyler saluted, waved his hand, and 2 guards dragged Vanessa out. Her screams faded into the distance. The office returned to silence. Elena watched me deal with the rotten peach blossom so decisively, cleanly, and even with a hint of absurdity. The ice in her eyes completely melted, replacing it with something sparkly I couldn't understand. She looked at me, her gaze practically sticky with affection. I felt a chill down my spine. Alarm bells rang. You, don't look at me like that. I am scared. But Elena stepped closer, trapping me between the desk and herself. She reached out and touched my face. Caleb. Her voice trembled with a tenderness I had never heard before. How long? Do you intend to keep pretending? Me? Pretend? What am I pretending? I'm just being myself. Elena began her aggressive offensive. Sending flowers, sending food, sending supplements. She even moved back into the villa under the pretense of supervising me so I don't go crazy again. Every day, I open my eyes to see her face written with I understand you. I feel for you. I was terrified. The plot had completely collapsed. Where was the crematorium? Where was the angst? Why had this turned into a sweet pet novel where the ex-wife chases the husband? I don't deserve this. I just want to slack off. I have to escape. So, on a dark and stormy night, I left a letter, packed a small bindle, and secretly ran away. In the letter, using all my literary talent, I wrote, "The world is big. I want to see it. Don't look for me." When Elena saw the letter the next morning, combined with my recent series of mental instability, she had a breakdown on the spot. The after effects of all those tragic romance novels she'd read exploded in her brain. He ran. He left a letter like this. He must have a terminal illness. He doesn't want to drag me down. So he chose to go to a place where no one knows him to die alone. Oh God, Caleb, why are you so stupid? Elena immediately mobilized all her connections and began searching the world for me. Meanwhile, I was in a rural ravine somewhere, happily digging yams with my strategic partner, Mama Rosa. Her son lived here and had a huge patch of land. Wearing work boots, a white towel draped around my neck, I swung a hoe, feeling the joy of manual labor. Young Caleb, looking at your build, you've clearly never done farm work. You're uncoordinated, just digging a yam. Mama Rosa critiqued me cheerfully while guiding me. I wiped off my sweat and grinned. Mama, this is called immersive life experience. Just as I was digging with gusto, a massive roar came from overhead. I looked up and froze. Dozens of helicopters, a black mass, hovered over this small hillside. The scene was more exaggerated than a Hollywood blockbuster. One helicopter lowered a rope ladder, and an agile figure slid down. It was Elena, looking heroic in a black tactical suit. She jumped off the ladder, pushed through the yam vines blown sideways by the rotor wash, and hugged the muddy, dumbstruck me. Caleb, she held me, crying loudly. I found you. Don't be scared. If you're sick, we'll cure it together. If money isn't enough, I have more. Please don't give up. I was being strangled breathless, holding a hoe, bewildered in the wind. The surrounding villagers all poked their heads out to watch. Hey, isn't that the new farmhand at Mama Rosa's? Oh my God. So he was a kept man by a rich lady. That sugar mama is so devoted, chasing him all the way to this ravine. Listening to the villagers' gossip, I felt my innocence was gone. What sickness do I have? Does laziness count? Is there a cure? I was dragged back to the villa by Elena. The next day, a whole team of medical experts came and gave me a comprehensive checkup from head to toe. The consultation results came out quickly. Me, Caleb Sterling, fit as a fiddle, appetite of a horse, health indicators better than a 20-year-old. The only suggestion, A bit lacking in exercise, cardio recommended. Holding the medical report, Elena first laughed through tears, then rage rose from her heart. She slammed the report into my face. Caleb Sterling, are you playing me? I knew I couldn't hide it anymore. If I kept pretending, she might actually send me to a mental hospital. I slumped onto the sofa, completely giving up. I am tired. Just end me. Hurry up. I laid my cards on the table. I just don't want to be some bullshit CEO anymore, okay? I just want to lie down every day, eat and drink, and rot until I die. Is that wrong? I started complaining frantically. Complaining about how tiring it is to wear a suit and tie every day, how hypocritical those business dinners are, how greasy the faces of those business tycoons are. I didn't want to hold up that iceberg face anymore. Didn't want to say those insincere platitudes. I just wanted to be myself. A mediocre slacker who loves roasted yams, loves watching cartoons, and loves picking his toes in the office. I finished speaking and let out a long breath, waiting for Elena's judgment. She might call me mud that can't support a wall, or she might think I'm even crazier. But to my surprise, after listening, she didn't get angry. Instead, she walked over and sat down beside me. Actually, I'm tired too, she said softly. She said she was also sick of wearing the mask of the strong, independent female lead, sick of the intrigue in the marketplace, sick of the fake affection surrounding her. In that moment, I saw something called resonance in her eyes. Then, she looked at me, asking tentatively, will you take me to rot with you? Me? Lady, you're the female lead. How can you slack off? If you don't build your career, how does the plot move? But looking at her expectant eyes, I couldn't bring myself to refuse. And so, the style of the Sterling mansion went completely off the rails. The two of us, wearing matching pajamas in a living room worth hundreds of millions, sat around a copper pot eating hot pot. We curled up in the home theater, watching Tom and Jerry all day instead of financial news. I even hosted the Sterling Corp online board meeting wearing boxer shorts, a popsicle in my mouth. The directors looked at my appearance on the video feed, so angry their mustaches went crooked. But miraculously, Sterling stock price didn't fall. Instead, it surged because of the CEO's grounded and relatable persona. I found that this life of not pretending, with a beautiful wife by my side, actually wasn't bad. It was great. Just when I thought I could rot with Elena until the end of time, a crisis arrived. The ultimate villain from the original book, the corporate predator Victor Stone, finally made his entrance. He had always viewed Sterling Corp as a thorn in his side. Hearing that I had gone mad recently, he felt the time to swallow Sterling Corp had come and started maliciously acquiring scattered shares in the dark. He even set up a feast at Hong Min, a trap disguised as a dinner party, and specifically invited the couple. At the banquet, the fat-eared Victor Stone held his wine glass, speaking sarcastically. Mr. Sterling, I hear you're obsessed with planting yams lately? What? Do you find a market too tiring and want to experience retirement early? His lackeys laughed along. I ignored him, focused only on eating. The braised pork shank on the table was done well, fatty but not greasy, melting in the mouth. Just as I was gnawing with a greasy mouth, Elena put down her chopsticks. She raised her wine glass, smiling elegantly and distantly. Mr. Stone must be joking. My Caleb isn't retiring. This is called opening a new track. After all, for an old-timer like you still spinning in traditional industries, it's hard to understand the new consumption concepts of us young people. With one sentence, she choked Victor half to death. Victor's face darkened, looking ready to get rough. It seems Mr. Sterling plans to let a woman fight his battles today. I swallowed the pork, wiped my mouth, and snapped my fingers. Tyler. The door to the private room was kicked open. My security captain Tyler, leading his squad of reformed punks, now my security detail, rushed in. Everyone wore black suits and sunglasses, imposing as hell. Bro-in-law, you called for backup. Who are we hitting? Tyler asked with full lung capacity. Victor and his lackeys jumped out of their chairs in fright. Civilized society, no fighting and killing. I stood up slowly. Walking up to Victor, I patted his shoulder. Since Mr. Stone loves acquisitions so much, why not acquire my yams too? I took out my phone and pulled up my 50-page PPT, feasibility analysis report on global layout of the yam industry. Then, using extremely tricky business logic, actually pure nonsense, and the eloquence of a pyramid scheme master, I painted a massive pie for Victor. I went from the nutritional value of yams to their industrial uses, then to their strategic position in future interstellar migration. Victor was hoodwinked until he was crippled. In the end, not only did his malicious acquisition plan fail, but he was also forced to sign a contract. He voluntarily invested $100 million to acquire my entire yam inventory and received $10 million in yam vouchers as a gift. Walking out of the hotel with the contract, Elena and I smiled at each other. We high-fived in sync. Husband and wife united, their strength cuts gold. The feeling of a mixed doubles match was awesome. After we successfully scammed Victor into oblivion, Elena proposed to me. On a completely ordinary afternoon, holding a diamond ring shaped like a sweet potato, she knelt on one knee in front of me while I was picking my toes on the sofa. I looked at her, then at the oddly shaped ring. All right, but I have one condition. The wedding was held as scheduled. The scene was unprecedented. No flowers, only lush yam vines and golden roasted yams. No symphony, only a hype man team hired by Tyler, getting the crowd rowdy with "Put your hands up." The party favors for the guests were a steaming hot roasted yam and a brand new plunger for each person. Rumor had it this was to commemorate an important figure on our road to love. Far away in the electronics factory tightening screws, Vanessa watched the wedding live stream and shed tears of regret. Or maybe her eyes were just tired from tightening screws too long. My strategic partner, the Yam Queen Mama Rosa, wearing a custom gown, served as our officiant, tremblingly reading the vows. Tyler acted as the MC, shouting into the microphone. Next, the groom. Kiss his bride. Atmosphere team. Make some noise. Looking at the smiling Elena in front of me for the first time, I felt that a slacker life seemed pretty interesting. I lowered my head and whispered in her ear. Although the plot is ridiculous, loving you, I'm serious. Probably. Elena stood on tiptoes and kissed me back. Please take care of me for the rest of my life, my idiot CEO. Later, Sterling Corp actually successfully transformed into the world's largest multinational deep processing enterprise for sweet potatoes. And I, as the CEO, continued to work hard at slacking off. But life with a wife and kids and a warm bed, no, a wife and hot yams, was truly delicious. Story complete.